Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to another episode of From the Ground Up, real-time issues with real-time solutions, brought to you by Queen Strategy Partners. And we are so excited to be able to have this platform in the middle of all the pandemics that we are seeing, how to really help businesses thrive. My name is Dr. Stacie N.C. Grant, my partner Danielle Douglas, and our other partner Nicole Valentine Esquire really hope that each of us are able to position our businesses to thrive post what we're experiencing right now. And this show gives you the ability to do that. We're a real example of collaboration, working together, three businesses, understanding that we're more powerful together and that we truly can make an impact, bring value and information to our audience every week, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday morning. So welcome to the show. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Danielle Douglas.
So good morning, everyone. Once again, we are excited about bringing you a great show today. We have two subject matter experts as it relates to MWBE. So I guarantee you this is going to be one time where you definitely do not want to miss how you can get contracts as an MWBE. You know, there's a lot of word out there right now that, you know, on the city level and the state level, there are significant budget deficits, but there are still opportunities for MWBEs to get contracts today and tomorrow. And so with that said, we again have two great experts. One of our experts is Tanya Pope, who is the Assistant Vice President of University Supply Diversity at Columbia University. Tanya works primarily in the Columbia University Facilities and Operations Department. She is responsible for sourcing capable and diverse vendors to support the university's construction projects and business initiatives. In addition, she oversees compliance reporting and community projects related to the Columbia University's agreement for its Manhattanville campus expansion with the Upper Manhattan community in the city and state of New York. Additionally, Tanya's department supports the university's sponsored projects that require diversity spin and reporting. And in 2019, Tanya was instrumental in launching the Upper Manhattan Pre-Apprenticeship Program for minority, women, and Upper Manhattan workers in conjunction with Pathways to Apprenticeship. The West Harlem Development Corporation and the City of New York for 4 years. 4 years ago, Tanya and her team launched the CU Grow Leadership Development Program for vendors. It's a program designed to help select minority women and locally owned business enterprises to grow their business using a coaching protocol and a curriculum design by the Columbia University School of Professional Studies. The firms work to build their capacity to secure larger contracts. Prior to rejoining Columbia University in 2016, Tanya worked for a national nonprofit organization, Enterprise, and Tanya has spent a decade at NTV Networks, Viacom as Vice President of Production, Travel, and Technology. She has owned her own consulting firm and has held senior roles in government, publishing, and the travel industry throughout her career. Tanya holds a BS in the Communications Management and an MS in Leadership and Strategic Management, both from Manhattanville College in Purchase, New York. She is currently a candidate for an MS in Public Administration from Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs in May 2021. She sits on the Executive Board of Directors of the Women's Builders Council and is an executive board member of the Harlem Tourism Board. In January 2020, Tanya became chair of the USA SPE Minority and Women's Special Interest Group. So without further ado, we would like to again introduce Tanya Pope. We are so excited about having you with us this morning, Tanya.
Danielle, thank you so much. And good morning, Dr. Grant. I'm going to have to cut that bio down. It makes me sound old.
No, it doesn't. It helps us celebrate all of your Black girl magic. So
First and foremost, I want to thank you all for having me on your broadcast today. I think it's so important, this work that you're doing, and I am incredibly proud to embrace other Black business owners, scholars, leaders who are out there giving their help to everyone else. So first and foremost, thank you.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, Tanya. And as I shared with the audience, if anybody should be a guest on this particular show about how MWBEs could get a contract, you are the person. I mean, I always say to you when we have our conversations, you are a wealth of knowledge. And so for those participants that are on, they don't realize the jewel, the wealth of information that they're going to get this morning. So we really appreciate you participating today.
Well, you're welcome. And I just do want to tell your audience that this is also an example of networking, because years ago, Danielle and I met, both two small business owners in consulting, to team to try and win a contract. We didn't win the contract, but what we won was each other's knowledge and facilitation. And we worked on 5 or 6 different projects over the years and constantly utilize one another. And so you are my example of what I'd love to see everyone else doing, Danielle.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. Thank you.
And I can echo that, Tanya, because it's wonderful to be able to call her my partner, sister, and friend, and to do this work. This real-time issues or real-time solutions is important to us from the ground up, to really show examples of what collaboration looks like, you know, not just talking about it, but actually doing it. So we want to shout out those who are here. Hi, Kim. Hi, Rolanda. Hi, Diana. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share this broadcast with others so that they can get the information that we will be sharing today. And we're going to jump right into it, Tanya, because a lot of people get certified and then there's a challenge. You know, we hear it all the time. So what do you think are the common challenges that hinder MWBEs in getting contracts? Because you do all the work to get certified, and then what hinders you in actually getting those contracts?
You know, when I was at SBS, God, it seems like eons ago, I used to teach a workshop called I'm Certified Now What? And the reason for that is that certification is just the first step to get you recognized and qualified to be eligible for the goals of agencies and companies. What you do after that matters a great deal. Most firms don't know that they can get assistance from like a PTAC from both the city and the state, so that their commodity codes, the contracts that come out in those codes, come directly to them. That's sort of smart thinking, because you want to wade through all the stuff that's not for you, narrow it down to the stuff that you do, and then as soon as you get that RFP, look at the requirements to make sure it's something you're eligible and capable of doing. And so
wait. Can I pause you for 1 minute, Tanya? Because you were talking about the codes. Let's start there, because sometimes the codes get confusing, right? And you're saying looking at the codes. What's your secret sauce, Tanya? We want to get all of the secret sauce. How do you really sort through the 1,000,001 codes?
Right. Well, obviously, you need to narrow down what you do very specifically. And I would say if you're not sure which codes relate to your business, to visit a PTAC and get them to help you understand what specifically are the codes that are coming out with contracts in your service area. You have to look at the services you provide, find the code that best matches those services. I would say go a little higher and a little lower to include accompanying codes, because you're right, they don't always code them correctly. But make sure you are listed on with the city and with the state on their databases to receive the RFPs that come out in those codes. That's the first one, finding a feeder system. I would also recommend joining an association in your line of industry. It may not be construction, which is the majority of what I do. But as I sit on the executive board of the Women Builders Council, I've been able to either bring in as approved vendors or make sure that contract awards were provide it to 7 or 8 of our members, just as a way of being in constant contact, being in webinars, being in meetings with them. So you got to be around where the work is in order to find out about it. And it's somewhat akin to the water cooler that we used to do. It's not stuff you're going to see on the internet or in a posting. It's stuff people know about, right? Mm-hmm. And so find yourself a good network in your industry, I would say. Also, as awful as it can be, attend agency briefings about opportunities. It's a lot of time for a business owner because at the end of the day, you have to do your business. You have to provide your services, but you also have a real responsibility to get involved in understanding what's out there and how you can participate. And I used to always advise firms, go to RFP pre-conferences, even if sometimes you think it's bigger than you, because there's a good chance if it's required that the winner of the award is in that room. Mm-hmm. So you need to network with the folks who look like they may have a chance of winning it to show them how you can bring value, first with your services and second with your certification. Don't ever lead with your certification because that's just icing on the cake. What's really important about you is the work you can provide. So those are some of my tips, I would say.
And Tanya, I just want to build on what you said, or I should say I have a clarifying question, because you have experience on the city level, like you said, from your work at the Department of Small Business Services, as well as on the state level. So when we talk about codes, the city uses different codes than the state, correct? Like the city.
Correct.
So can you share with the participants the way that works? Because often when you get certified, you put your NAICS codes in, thinking that's how, let's say on a city level, that they're going to identify who you are, the type of services you offer, for you to get emails about certain RFPs. But that is not necessarily the case.
It is not the case.
Right.
You have to purposefully sit down with a technical assistance officer and make sure you know your codes and put them in that contract reporter or whatever mechanism a municipality uses. That's something you have to do specifically. Just getting certified as a MWBE and having those codes in there is not going to get you any feeder information. It's something you have to specifically go and do. And once you see them coming in, you'll know that they're in place. But, the whole thing about getting certified is great. But what firms don't understand, and it's with any organization, even if you became an approved vendor at Columbia, that means you just get to sit in our database and somebody could pick you if they wanted to. Those aren't good odds. You have to go out and market yourself. You have to network your company, let people know you're an approved vendor. You can use me for this service if you'd like to, and it's easy because I'm in your database. So packaging yourself with a bow as ready to go to buyers is a big, important step, not just sitting there and waiting for things to happen.
And Tanya, I think you bring up such a good point, because you probably hear this more than I even hear it, and I hear it a ton. And that is that oftentimes MWBEs, they get certified and they think it was for naught. They think there was no real value in them getting certified because they really do think that opportunities are going to fall in their lap. Mm-hmm. And someone is going to say, hey, Miss or Mr. MWBE, we have this opportunity. We want you to be part of it. They don't really realize that they have to be actively engaged early on with the process. And just like they have a marketing strategy for private industry, they should clearly have a marketing strategy for getting contracts. And that even starts with their capability statement and what that looks like, right?
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So we appreciate that. And Stacie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted, we have, hey, Mecca, thank you for coming on. She said, yes, it's so true. And before COVID, she was doing that, reaching out, building relationships. But I think it's important to understand the codes, because I know the codes confuse me. I was like, what the what? Right. So you really need to understand the codes because you put that on your capability statement. You start to narrow down what your expertise are, and then you build those relationships with potential contracts. And I think, Tanya, we have so much to talk about today. I'm so excited that you're here and we have this expertise. But I think most people who get contracts need to understand there's a process, right? And when we talk about real-time issues or real-time solutions, just because you get certified, to Danielle's point, doesn't mean tomorrow you get $1 million contract. Like, you have to be able to build those relationships and show value, because just saying you're certified is not going to guarantee that you get the contract that you want. So how can MWBEs really assess their own capacity so they can better identify the right size contracts for their business, how to go about it, how to do it? And before we let you answer that question, we're going to welcome our additional guest that's coming in. Good morning. It's good to see you, Carl. We're in the thick of it, and we're going to introduce you officially, but Tanya's about to ask a question, so I'm going to let her complete her answer, and then I'll formally introduce our next guest.
I would say, when going into a new organization, whether it's a government agency or a private institution, not to ask for or bid on contracts that are larger than anything you've ever done before. Bid on those that are within your current capacity, that you can show them you've successfully done before in other venues, and then build up from there. I've had the unfortunate experience of seeing vendors that have bid on contracts that were larger than they had the capacity for and literally go out of business.
Wow.
A contract can put you out of business. So start at a place that you know you can do a slam dunk and build from there higher and higher and higher. And as you do that, you're also building the relationship with the folks in that organization. So it benefits in several ways. And I'm not going to give you a lengthy answer. I'm going to let you introduce Carl. And so that's what I have to say about that.
Well, thank you for that, Tanya. And that's important, because we don't want any MWBE to go out of business trying to pursue a contract. The goal is to increase our capacity and to be able to go after these larger contracts. So yes, it gives us great pleasure to introduce Carl Peters, who is the Principal Business Analyst Compliance Manager with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Office of Diversity and Inclusion. In this capacity, he informs MWBEs about Port Authority's business opportunities and guides them on how they can do business with the agency. Additionally, he oversees the MWBE compliance requirements for the Port Authority projects at JFK and LaGuardia to ensure and that each fulfill the MWBE goal for good faith efforts. Carl earned his bachelor's degree from Cornell University in policy analysis and management, and his master's from NYU in public administration. And he's a certified contract compliance administrator. So all of that to say, Carl knows what he's talking about. We have the boss, and we get to work with him through our interactions on the JFK redevelopment project as MWBEs, and just know his heart for the work that he does, really ensuring that MWBEs get access and opportunity, what we're talking about today, and how to go about it the right way. So welcome to the show, Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Yes, good morning, all. My sincerest apologies for these technical issues that I encountered this morning.
No
one
worries.
thing that happens is that with the Port Authority system.
Your volume needs to go up just a little bit, Carl, but you're here, which is the important part, and you have great information to share. And we know that you have some additional information. We'll be showing that slide when we get to that point, but we're in the thick of just a few opening questions as it relates to MWBEs. We already talked about common challenges. We talked about building capacity to identify the right size. And maybe you can jump in on just sharing a little bit about how MWBEs during this COVID environment can continue to build capacity as it relates to the operational functions of fulfilling a contract, access to capital, back office support.
Well, Tanya,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Carl. Before we jump into that, something I want to bring up, because I think it's critically important, and it speaks to the opportunities that Stacie and I have availed ourselves of in regards to joint venturing, is that and both of you can answer this before we go to the next question, is in regards to capacity building, one of the primary ways that MWBEs can build their capacity is joint venturing. And we don't do that enough. And so that's an opportunity where an MWBE can potentially go for bigger contracts if they really identify another MWBE that they could collaborate with and do joint venturing. So I wanted to ask both of you about that and ask you, how often do you see MWBEs collaborating and utilizing joint venturing as a way to build their capacity and go for bigger contracts?
I'll let Carl go first, and I'll be glad to respond next.
Okay. First of all, can y'all hear me properly?
You need to get a little, your volume. If you could increase your volume, that would be great.
I think I'm all the way.
Okay, that's better.
Why don't I jump in and answer that question while Carl manages his technical issue? I would say we don't see enough joint venturing and teaming. And one of the, I think, reasons is that a lot of firms don't know enough about how to joint venture and team and what's needed and what's being looked for by the agency or institution. One of the biggest things is that we want to know at the end of the day, who is responsible? You can't come in and say, we're doing this together. So what it often will look like if you're not going to create a legal venture is that you're coming in at the start as a prime and sub together. If you can think about it like that, one firm will own the contract and the other is definitely going to be a full party to that, but the responsibility will be on the larger or the firm that has more services to deliver, if you will. But companies want to know at the end of the day who is ultimately responsible for delivering this project. So if it's not a legal joint venture, you want to get out to your client right away. Inspire is going to lead this effort. Dr. Grant's firm will be a full 40% partner in it, and together we will do this. And I think we'd like to see more of that. And you just have to be very intentional about helping them to understand how it's going to work.
Absolutely. We have some questions that are coming in, and I just want to make sure we squeeze that in while we check for Carl. There's one question coming in from Mecca. Okay, Carl, yes, you can answer that, and then we're going to go to one of the audience questions.
So what I was saying was that joint ventures, there's a dual thing about them. Excellent way of creating structures for greater opportunities for MWBEs. But they're also detrimental in the sense that if they're not structured correctly, they can be really bad. Because very often the joint ventures we see that fail or do not yield positive results are often for MWBEs, the joint ventures that have not been structured favorably for them. They are often, and a good example is usually with the ACDBE program as concessionaires. Okay, very often what you find is that, for example, the profits are not distributed correctly or fairly. They're burdened with additional expenses unreasonably. And all of this, when you think about it, has to do with how the agreement is laid out. Now, that's the negative. But the positive is that when you have a joint venture and you have a reasonable partner, especially a non-minority, that can catapult your ability to do business to another level significantly. It helps increase your capacity. It helps increase your skill base, your whole resource to do business, especially in your area of expertise, grows exponentially. But it has to be structured correctly. How do you do this? You get a good lawyer. That's where it starts. You get a good lawyer. You don't get, for example, the family lawyer. No, you get someone who knows joint ventures. you don't only get someone who knows joint ventures, but you get a lawyer who is very familiar with the MWBE, DBE programs and the nuances involved in structuring joint ventures. Joint ventures are not structured on a general basis as you do for a strategic alliance or a general partnership. They're generally structured specifically for projects. So, for example, you might have something like the JFK redevelopment project. There may be a project at Terminal 1 and a specific area of work that needs to be done that fits your expertise. You form a joint venture specifically for that area of work. You don't joint ventures are not structured in general for whenever the opportunity comes up. No, they will not be approved on that basis. They will only be approved based on a specific project that's going to be pursued. But with that said, when they're done correctly, it can take your business to a different level. So I'll pause here and probably expound on it a little more and allow for some questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Carl. And great information, because there are different types of joint ventures. And as you were saying, generally it's for one project, or you could be like Queen Strategy Partners. So there are ways in which you can structure one for it to be beneficial to your business. There was one question, and either one of you can answer it. It came from Mecca, and she said, how do I find RFPs for health and wellness, her industry?
I would like to say that in reading my bio, one of the things that Danielle read was that I'm working with our research groups in sourcing MWBEs to satisfy the New York State goals on their grants and projects. And so what she sells specifically in health and wellness is particular, but I would love if he is actually involved in the medical products field to have her reach out to me, because we're looking for vendors right now to build a database for our researchers to provide them with products and services from MWBEs to satisfy our research grants with New York State.
Wow. Well, we'll talk about opportunities when you come from the ground up.
There you go, right?
And you guys can give my email freely. Danielle knows I will pick up the phone and talk with anybody about opportunities. One thing I want to say is, before we get too far in this, before we get to the end, I do want to get a commitment from you ladies to come on my radio show, because we're talking with MBEs in Upper Manhattan, and I want you to come on and talk on our show about the Queen Strategy Partners broadcast. And secondly, I'd like to talk about an opportunity that we have, but I'll lend you back to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Consider it done. But over to you, Danielle.
Well, Stacie, with all due respect, I kind of digressed and started talking about joint venturing. So we got to go back to the original question you asked in regards to COVID-19 and that. So,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I got so caught up, I forgot about my question, because that was a good one. That blessed somebody today, because we have a lot of people who are MWBs watching and those who want to get certified. We're getting comments saying, I want to get certified. I want to, participate in what's available. And Mecca, we will definitely get Tanya's information to you so that you can put yourself in a position to be one of those that she's sourcing right now in real time. I feel like the A-team. I just love when a plan comes together. That we can go from the ground up and these blessings happen immediately. So yes, back to my question. MWBEs during COVID-19 continue to build their capacity as it relates to operational functions of fulfilling a contract, like access to capital, back office solutions and support, and when they're cash strapped, because everybody knows what we're dealing with during this pandemic. So, Carl, you want to kick that off?
Sure. There's a saying, in every crisis, there are opportunities. And this is one of them. This is an opportunity for you to improve your electronic files. Okay, those of you that are paper-driven operations, you need to come up to speed with electronic documentation and technology. And guess what? I'm talking about that, and I'm the one that came on late on this thing with, with technology issues. But it's real. Um, for example, you need all your files that you have in paper right now. You should try to convert them into electronic files so that they can be easily transferred over whenever required. You want to ensure, for example, we don't have business cards in this situation, but you want to have an electronic profile that can be very quickly and easily sent to someone, either via text or through email or otherwise. And you want to make sure that it can be universally accepted so that there will be no complications in someone receiving your contact information electronically. You want to ensure, for example, the little ones at the home right now who are very technologically savvy, that you engage them. Give them their little summer job. Help them, uh, get them to help you get your electronic stuff together. They're very, very smart. They know this stuff very well. Engage them. Direct them in what you would like done, and get them involved. They will, for example, you want to create a capability statement. Okay, you might have something in paper. You want to convert that into an electronic file. You want to ensure that you have all your references together for the work that you've done and you continue to do. You want to make sure that everyone that you have as a reference is accessible. You have their correct telephone number, their email addresses, particularly, and all other information that could be transferred electronically. Because guess what? People that want to do business with you are going to want references. Why? Because work is getting limited. When work is limited, com- competition increases. When competition increases, you need to step up your game and show why you. Why should one consider you versus another? And this is the time when you want to make sure that you're on your A game, that all your documents, everything is in proper order. Lastly, you want to make sure that you're always accessible. If you're in business, you want to make sure you can be reached by phone, by email, and that you are responsive. One of the biggest, one of the biggest problems with MWBEs getting work sometimes is they're not reachable or responsive when contacted. Okay. This is particularly true for construction when subcontracting work is required. Very often the primes will come and say, well, I tried to reach so and so, but they were not accessible. Well, personally, I do my double check on that just to make sure that their comment, their follow up was genuine. Okay, but nonetheless, you want to make sure that your contact information is accurate, and you're very much reachable. And lastly, you want to make sure that each of the representatives that you're familiar with in the agencies that you work with, that you're in touch with them. So, for example, those of you that know me, it doesn't hurt to hit me up and send me an email to say, hey, Carl, um, this is my area of expertise. As you know, I do this. My specific trade is plumbing. I'm looking for anything in work, any subcontracting work or primary work. What that will do is that will keep you on my radar. The difference between not doing that and doing that is that those that do it gets my attention. Those that don't, not that I deliberately want to forget, but you're just not on my radar, and so I miss that. Okay, but this is what you really need to do, and you need to start thinking from an entrepreneurial perspective. Why? Because competition is increasing, resources are getting fewer. Many people, for example, even people that are being laid off right now, are going to start putting up their shingle. That means that that's more competition entering the pool, and so that's why you need to have your things in order. Okay, and always have an elevator pitch. You want to be able to tell someone what you do and why they should consider you within a minute. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Carl. And Tanya?
Well, I would like to just say that, out of challenges come opportunity. And we have seen so many new offerings of support for MWBEs. And Danielle is a coach in my CU Grow program. And as she knows, every week we email our coaches and our firms, not just the 20 firms that are in that cohort, but all of our alumni firms. We let firms know once you engage with CU Grow, you're in it for life. So you can always come to Columbia, ask for help, advocacy, opportunities. But it's about 100 or so folks, and we send them opportunities about new loan funds that are being created, new grant funds that are being created, other opportunities. So we're just trying to make sure to bring all of these different disparate resources together to share with the firms to help them shore up their companies to get through this challenge. One of the things you may or may not have heard of is Columbia launched a $1 million loan fund last week for local businesses. And we also have a program where we are putting together architects and contractors to help firms to reconfigure their spaces for social distances, primarily restaurants. So they will be in a position to open safely as of today, I guess, or whenever the time comes. But you need to find out as much as you can, and we would love to have you on our list and be part of what we distribute, because what we're putting out is here's the next thing you can use to move your firm forward. I would say that it's been a challenge to have COVID occur, especially for some of those smaller firms that couldn't afford to keep staff on. But as you know, even as of last week, the PPP loan deadlines were extended again. Mm-hmm. So you got to stay up with the information. A lot of firms thought PPP wasn't for them in the beginning. Well, now that you have 3 months more to pay it back, maybe it is. You have to be current and know what's going on in the environment. And it's also fast moving. But if you don't mind, I would love to talk about an opportunity that Columbia has that I would love for your listeners to check out and weigh in on. I'm going to just post a link on your site. That's a link that you can go to and read about this opportunity on our website. We're building a 34-story tower for graduate students and faculty at 125th and Broadway. The project is being fast-tracked. It's open shop. We welcome both union and non-union companies. And the beautiful thing about this program is that there is opportunity for every kind of firm, consulting, architects. It's a open trade. It's a, as I said, an open shop building. But the important thing to know here is that Columbia has insisted on a minimum wage of $25 an hour for any worker on the project. So we're not going to be running one of those open shop projects where we're paying people $14 and $15 minimum wage to do construction. Every single worker on the project must have at least a $25 an hour salary. And on the page, you will find all of the areas of the trades. There's a PowerPoint there to walk you through what we're looking for, and a contact number to get in touch with the prime. Crescent Consulting was hired by the prime to manage their MWBE sourcing. But if you are reaching out to them and you're not getting anywhere, pick up the phone and call my number, because we want as many MWBEs working on this project. You don't have to assent to anything like a PLA. You bring your own workers, and we just want to make sure that, as you may know or may not know, we have a 35% MWL goal, and we want to make sure that we reach that goal and beyond. So sorry about taking you off topic, but I just really needed to get that in there.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Stacie.
No, I just wanted to let her know we pulled it up so the audience can see this online information, and you have a session coming up. So if you go to the website, and we'll also put it in the chat so that you all can take advantage of it. But thank you. No apologies at all. That's what the show is about. Real-time solutions for real-time issues. So we thank you for sharing that and being generous enough to let folks know, because we want everyone to take advantage. And Carl said it best, competition is going to continue to increase. So we have to be able to take advantage of as many projects as we can. So thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just want to build upon what Stacie said, because again, when you think about what's going on with COVID-19, so many MWBEs may feel like there's not a lot of opportunities out there. And so just by you sharing that project with our audience, that tells you there is still opportunity. And I'm sure that Carl could speak to that also. I mean, there's still a lot of projects happening at the different terminals, at the JFK redevelopment project. I've had the opportunity to listen in on a webinar that was done by one of the consultants for American Airlines. So there is opportunity. Again, you just got to make sure that you position yourself correctly so that you can avail yourself of these opportunities. And with that said, another question we have for both.
So Danielle, let me say something real quick about this.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go further, keep in mind, folks, again, I do not want people to lose sight of the fact that competition is increasing. And then also keep in mind that people do business with people they're familiar with and they already know. The question becomes, how do you insert yourself to demonstrate that you can add greater value, or to let them give you to at least take your business seriously instead of who they've been using before? And I mean, that's a whole topic, but it is something to really keep in mind. Think about, well, what value do I provide? Why my business? What do I do that I believe is much better than XYZ? Okay. The other thing to take advantage of is, if you're an MWBE certified firm, leverage this. It's a marketing tool. It positions you for that 30% goal. So you want to leverage this. And I will let you go on, Danielle, but then I would like to speak about some low-hanging fruits that folks could start pursuing.
Okay, but
Danielle,
you know what?
if I could just make one more comment about the COVID. One of the things that I think firms, or two things they should really focus on, is that when projects stopped, everything was, in limbo. When we came back online, we had a lot of projects that were awarded, but firms were now no longer in a position to carry out. So we had to find a new firm to take over that contract. And I'm sure that's the case in many organizations. So make sure that your large clients and the people you're doing business with know that you're ready to go, you're back up and running, and anything they have, you can, help them with. The other thing is that, and I don't know how it's working in government, but we are greenlighting projects one by one that had already been funded. So find out what's now back on track to get started. And that way you know what to go for, instead of looking at something that's going to continue to be postponed for a year and a half or longer. So those are two pieces of information I would provide as far as COVID.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And you know what, Carl, before I ask the next question, I'd rather you go ahead and talk about the low-hanging fruit, because that's critically important, that our participants know about opportunities. So by all means, go ahead. The floor is yours. Okay.
So I'm going to start very broadly. The Port Authority currently has a set-aside program. It's SBE set-aside. It was up to 2.5 million. Now we've pushed it to $3 million. That means that it's primarily, even though it's race neutral, but the majority of SBE firms are really minority and women-owned businesses. And so what that does is that narrows your pool of competition, especially if you're currently certified. That puts you well in position to be invited to bid. It's on an invitation basis only. It's not publicly advertised. And so these opportunities are based on you're invited to bid. And so that's one of the that's another reason why I really encourage you to have your references together, have your all your documentation in electronic files so that they can be easily distributed when needed. The other thing is that the terminals, especially JFK redevelopment projects, they're still moving forward with a lot of the things. It's important to keep in mind that I think McKissick and the consultants that work with McKissick and the Port Authority have knowledge about the work packages that are coming out. A lot of that information will be posted on the JFK Redevelopment Community Center's website. And Danielle, I believe you might have that link to that website where, and if you share that with folks, they could review that website for updates on the opportunities, the packages of work that are being distributed. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that, and I don't know if you got the link I sent you, Danielle, for our website with the page on opportunities.
Yes,
Do you have this available?
Yes, we're going to put that up, and it's a newjfk.com. I shared that with our audience, so a newjfk.com, and right now everyone is looking at the doing business with the Port Authority.
Right, folks, this page, and I believe there's the URL on that page. Copy that. That's the most important page on the Port Authority's website. Okay, on that page, you will see information on every area of opportunities that exist, okay, and how to do business with the Port Authority. I want, for those of you in construction, the section on opportunity, look at and I cannot see this properly based on what you have here, but look at the construction opportunities. You go to the link here, and you look, it is posted almost every day, new opportunities. The strategy for this is very simple. There is a contact information on the for the person who oversees that contract. You want to follow up with them. Regardless if it's a very big contract and it's something that's beyond your capacity, what you want is to find out who are the plan holders, which firms have requested a copy of the bid. Because these are the firms that we are going to, my office and me in particular, will be hounding them for MWBE participation. You want to become familiar with who are these folks that have that plan, that took up the plans, that will be bidding on the contract, because they will be required to meet the goal. And so you want to be able to be on the radar for the specific work that you do. For participation on the contracts they might acquire. The other thing you want to look at is the awards list, the firms that have already been awarded work.
Okay, Carl, is that you're done, or you have more to share in regards to this? Hello?
He might be paused for a moment, so we'll give him a chance. But just to reiterate, newjfk.com, I see that we had a question from Michelle asking what to do as a new business. How do you start? You can get information on certification at newjfk.com. You can go to the Port Authority website directly to find out information on how to do business with the Port Authority. And for those who, like Michelle, are thinking about getting certified, you can get certified on the state level, on the city level with Port Authority. And, you know, you can also do nationally. So there's many different levels and layers. The good news is in New York, if you apply for one, you can fast track an application to get to the others. So it's a process, and it forces you to make sure, as we've had on our previous shows from the ground up, making sure that you have all of your structures and systems in place, your back office. We've talked about that on this show. So it really puts you in a position to get everything together so that you can compete in this space for these sorts of contracts and getting certified. So I know that we could be here
with the certification that the city pays business development organizations to help vendors become certified so they can get that help at no cost to fill out the application. They also do webinars explaining the whole certification process. But if I could, and I love the state, I would certify with the city first because they're much faster, and then get that application fast tracked to the state for however long it might take. So if you want to get certified quickly, start with the city.
And one more thing I want to add is that for Michelle, she says she's a new business. I don't know what that means in regards to if she's literally a new business or she's in the startup phase. But you do have to be an operational business for at least 1 year before you actually go for certification. So I just wanted folks to know that and take that into consideration in regards to when you should start the certification process.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Danielle. I know that our show is winding down. This is one of those shows where I'm feeling a part 2 coming on. There's so much for us to discuss and to get through because we want to see everyone succeed. It's not just about Queen Strategy Partners being successful or individual companies being successful, but the three of us are really committed to bringing as many people along for the journey, partnering with people like Tanya, having resources like Carl. That's what we do. We share it. And we started this series in the midst of COVID-19 because we wanted to provide a platform that gave real-time solutions to real-time issues. So we appreciate you all supporting from the ground up. Some of you have been sharing it out. So I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to see if Carl is able to share some final thoughts back on the broadcast. But as we are almost at the top of the hour, I feel like crying, Tanya. I don't want to say goodbye.
Oh, no. Well, let's go ahead and schedule our next meeting. On July 14th at 4 p.m., my radio show airs. I would love to invite you ladies to be on one of our segments. We've got the new SBS Commissioner, Danielle Douglas, doing the first segment. I would love to have you on the second segment to talk about your show and what you're giving to all of these firms in this important time. So let's discuss that on the back end.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar now. Like, let me save 4 o'clock on the 14th. So thank you so much, Tanya, for your wealth of experience. There's no wonder why Danielle speaks so highly of you and adores you and the work that you're doing. So now I get to have another one of these brilliant Black women in my circle. So I thank you for what you do for MWBEs and what space you hold for us as women, and particularly women of color. So we want to celebrate you for that. And Carl, thank you for fighting through all of the technology because you're here, right? And the good news is you shared some valuable information. We'll give you a minute or two to share your final remarks before we wrap up this episode of From the Ground Up.
Carl,
we can see you. So we have to do a part 2 so that Carl can really be on camera. So Tanya, we will be talking about how we continue this, Danielle and I in our debrief, and of course our partner Nicole, just going through all the ways that we can continue to bring value. So I thank you again, and I'm going to let Danielle close us out. Visit us on our Instagram page, Queen Strategy Partners. Visit us on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have how many episodes now, Danielle? Like 6, 7? I don't even know.
I think this is the 8th one, Stacie.
Yeah,
we started in the middle of May, and we've been on a roll. But just remember that this, for Queen Strategy Partners, this is a labor of love. We are MWBEs as well. We are right there in the trenches with you. We know the difficulties that you may be going through, but as Tanya noted, as Carl noted, in the midst of crisis, there's opportunities. And so this is an opportunity for you to pivot. There are resources out there for you. There are opportunities out there for you. And we will continue to provide you with real-time solutions for the real-time issues that you're going through. Because guess what? We want to make sure that you have every tool and resource that you need to not only survive COVID-19, but more importantly, to thrive. So always remember, we got your back. We are here, and our expectation is that you continue to allow us to take this journey with you, and that you join us every Tuesday at 9 a.m. to have fabulous guests that you get to hear great information. But remember, with information, with knowledge, it's only wisdom when it's rightly applied. When you take the information you get and you apply it to get you and your business to the next level. So with that said, from Queen Strategy Partners, we're looking forward to seeing you next week at the same time, Tuesday. So we'll see you then. And until then, have a great and productive week and make it happen.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a safe day. Remember to wear your mask. Stay socially distant. The Rona is still out here in these streets, so be careful. Bye-bye, everyone.